you cannot entertain. Rise like the sun through the shadows of gray. Your story begins when you light your own way. Ignite the spark, let it blaze through the night. Build a world where your dreams take flight. Together we stand, hand in hand we sway. Building the future.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, we can still stay there for 3 more minutes.
Yep. Well, it depends on which host you're on.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you can say it longer, but
See Beth, but I don't see her as a.
yeah, name's here. She might just stepped away.
All right. So
So we have a couple minutes.
yeah, I sent you Beth an invite as speaker.
Yep. Oh, because I had also forwarded it to Beth.
I can see her on my side as a listener. I just don't see her on as a co-host or a speaker.
Oh. Yeah, see, I have optimized my life, me and Beth all on, but you're right, it says listeners 3. But mine always says that. On line 3, total 4, so there's somebody else too.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. So we're having a warm, sunny day. It's 71 already here in sunny Buffalo, so which is nice. Since we got quite wet yesterday running around, it poured all day.
All right.
So Beth, can you hear us? Should we send her another?
I just did.
You did, okay.
When I get quiet, I'm typing.
Okay.
I can't type and talk at the same time because then I type what I talk.
Oh, are we in?
You
Yes,
are.
there you
Way to
are.
go.
Hello.
Mary, I just sent you an email too to see if you have time either tonight or Friday to take a look at like the Podbean dashboard and why I don't have one.
Yeah, we'll sit down, do a shared screen.
Yeah, I can do tonight like at like 7 my time.
Give me 1 minute. I got it. I know I got something tonight. I can't remember if it's at 6 or 7 my time. I can't 7, but I can do like a 8:30 your time.
I make no promises
anytime.
that I'm coherent.
Or we can do it Friday.
Let's do it Friday. Friday I can do anytime after 1 o'clock my time.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm good after the radio show.
Okay.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is the Optimize My Life show brought to you by the Hope Collection. And today we have the privilege of hearing about fat-free food Talk Real Nutrition, Real Simple with Beth Wyman. So, Beth, if you would like to introduce yourself, and we also have on the line Mary Stanley, another integral part of the Hope Collection. But, Beth, if you would like to take it away, we'd be happy to hear from you.
Awesome. Thank you. So what feels like forever ago, but I think it was 2 weeks ago, we had talked about going through what is the My Plate diagram and how to use it. Because that is what we use now instead of the food pyramid, right? So this is and I'm looking up a little bit more details about that transition. But this is something that was transitioned to, I believe, let me look it up because I'm going to get it wrong. Yep, 2011. I was right. So the USDA switched from the food pyramid to this plate model in 2011. The idea was that it's easier to conceptually understand how to put the foods together and still come out with the same outcome. So it's theoretically a little bit easier to use. And from an educator standpoint, right, when I'm doing nutrition counseling and education around what to eat, how to make healthy choices, a plate model is a lot easier for teaching as well. There's still some nuances to work through, definitely, but you're sitting down to something, right? And knowing what it's supposed to look like in front of you each time you eat is a lot easier than saying, hey, I need you to track how many servings of grains did you have today? And it's like, okay, well, what is a serving and what is a good grain choice? And so with this, yes, we can talk about what are good grain choices or better grain choices, but we don't even have to have the discussion of the serving size piece because the plate is only so big and there's only so much room. And so it's not that serving size is suddenly not important. This is a tool that reduces essentially the mental load on the person looking to change their eating habits, so that you can still get where you want to go with actionable steps, and you're not suddenly trying to learn a whole new area that is outside of your current focus. So that was the idea behind switching to the plate model. And if no one's seen it, you can easily see it at myplate.gov. It used to be choosemyplate.gov, but when I just typed that in, it redirected. And I'll put that in the comments down here as well. Myplate.gov. Oh, it put in a space. Autocorrect. Myplate.gov. There we go. And it shows you the plate model. And the general plate model, you can see, has its color coded to help with somebody who might have a lower literacy level. We can say, okay, what kinds of foods go into the red section or the green section or the orange section or the purple section, right? And learn it that way as well, or the blue section too. So on here, half of the plate is fruits and vegetables. A little bit more than a quarter of it are for veggies and a little bit less than a quarter as fruits. Why? Because the general recommendation is about 2 servings of fruits a day and about 3 servings of vegetables a day. So if you're doing your plates this way, you're probably going to end up somewhere around there. That's all. And then you can see that there's a little bit more than a quarter of it is for grains, and a little bit less than a quarter of it is for proteins. And so if you think back to the pyramid, the 6 to 8 servings a day, it's going to be more than the servings that are needed for protein. So it's made into a little bit bigger section than the protein section. So again, looking at how a plate is divided up, um, instead of thinking through number of servings. You can look at your plate, excuse me, and go from there.
That's
Dairy
good.
is off to the side. Um, when I'm teaching to the plate method, I typically put dairy in with the protein section, depending on who I'm talking to and where it fits in for them. But it is an additional um, protein source. It does also have carbohydrates, so it's not a grain or a fruit, but it is a food that also has carbohydrates. Um, so for me and the way that I counsel, I tend to put it in with the protein section. But there are schools of thought that have it off at the side, and you want to have like 2 servings of dairy. So making sure that you're getting in dairy with like lunch and dinner or something like that. So it really depends on how it fits best into somebody's diet. Um, but I like to incorporate it into the protein section because then it also widens it into things like yogurt, not just like fluid milk.
Okay.
Um,
Now,
these
wouldn't
recommend.
cheese,
Go ahead.
where would cheese be under protein then instead of dairy?
Um, let me see what they consider it. I would consider it, honestly, I count cheese as a fat source
Okay.
when I'm teaching. It does have some protein, certainly, but it is a high fat protein. And typically with the plate method, you teach towards low fat protein
Okay.
options. Yeah. So, meat, fish, poultry, beans, eggs, tofu. They do include nuts and seeds. Let's see. Let's see where they put it. If I click
It's
on
a really
dairy.
neat site.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's great. Yep. So they put cheese in the dairy group. Yeah.
Okay.
But it is a protein option as well, right? Which is why typically, like, I count it as a high fat protein if you're using a regular full fat cheese, which in my world, like, I'd rather you just have a small amount of full fat cheese um, than than torture
Mm,
yourself with like a low fat or fat free cheese option, which is
yes,
just
yes.
never the
Like I'd
same.
rather
Like,
limit my use of
yeah,
butter than have any margarine at all. So,
I'm a big butter. It's interesting. I grew up on margarine, but I'm a big butter fan instead. I'm like, just use less. You're good.
mm-hmm.
Um, but that's where moderation comes in, and this helps with that moderation, right? And what this also helps with is looking at what you're doing at every meal, which prevents that like kind of trying to make up for an unhealthy meal by having, say, like a salad with nothing else on it for dinner because you had like a burger and fries for lunch or something. So, which I really enjoy. I'm like, you can't, that's not how it works. That's not, you don't get to like, I think back to like Weight Watchers, and I remember like you could like save up your points and then like have a big splurge, and I'm like, you can't. It's not realistic. It's really, really unhealthy eating habits to go about things that way. Um, so, um, so I like this looks at, okay, what does each plate need to look like? Okay, I'm having a burger. What does that look like? I've got my protein. My bun would be my grain product. And then, cool, that only covers half my plate. What else do I need? It's like, well, French fries, technically, you could count potatoes as a starchy vegetable, but maybe we've really round it out and include a side salad or some carrot sticks. Like, and then suddenly you've rounded out that meal and you don't need to like try to make up for it later. You've made the best with what you've got, or what you're really looking to eat. Um, so the other interesting thing with my plate, and I feel like it's truly an underutilized online resource is that they do have recipes in the My Plate kitchen. So there are healthy recipe ideas. It'll tell you how much it costs. So if you're looking for something super budget friendly, you can, I'm just opened it. There are 500 different recipes
Mm,
at that very low budget end. So the cheapest meals. And as food gets more expensive, this is a great resource to have of knowing where you can get um, some healthy recipe options that aren't going to break the bank. And also, honestly, they're not complicated, um, which is the other really great piece of it as well. Is that you don't have to be a chef to use the recipes. They're pretty straightforward.
yes,
Um,
and
and
different.
yeah, there's
I
all
like
kinds.
how, directions, wash hands with soap and water before you even start touching your food.
Listen, it's very basic because everybody's coming
Yes.
in with something different. So, and then um let me see where it lives now. They do have it broken down for different what they call like life stages. So like infants, toddlers, preschoolers, kids, teens, young adults, adults, older adults, and then also families. Which is cool. They used to have something where you can set your own plan. Ah, they still do. Um, how did I get here though? Is there like an easy way? More key topics? No, that's home. So where I went to get here is I went to resources for anybody that's like following along on their phone or the computer. I
Mhm.
went to resources and then what's on my plate and then scrolled down and clicked um, my plate plan and then get your plan. I'm going to put the link in here as well into the notes. So it's myplate, myplate.gov slash myplate. Oh, if I can spell, I can't. Dash plan. And what that will bring up is a calculator for you to look at what you personally need, still kind of general, um, in a day. So they calculate, I'll walk through it for myself, right? So it's asking like what language I want it in, how old I am, as well as my sex. So this is not gender, right? Gender is a social construct, but sex is how you were born. And for anybody that's on like hormone therapies, you would select what your hormones currently align with, because that does change how you use the nutrients and what your body does with it and what your metabolism is like. So age, sex, I am not pregnant or breastfeeding. So we've got that in there. And then you enter your current height and weight. And then it tells me that I am overweight, which is always cool. Not really. Whatever. And then it asks your physical activity. So these are all key points that go into calculating somebody's just general needs, right? And then I can look at my food plan, right? And it gave me a 2,000 calorie food plan. And this is looking at just maintenance, right? This is not telling you how to lose weight or anything like that. This is just showing you how to eat to maintain your current body in a healthy fashion. And so it's still general. There's nothing in here about like food preferences, other disease states, just height, weight, age, sex, and activity level. And so it tells me that I should have 2 cups of fruit, 2.5 cups of veggies, 5.5 ounces of protein, 3 cups of dairy, and 6 ounces of grain every day. And for anybody that's like, oh my God, 5.5 ounces of protein is so low, I could eat that in one meal. Yeah, I mean, yeah, probably. But you have to remember that if you're conceptually thinking of protein as only being what's in this group of like your seafood, your meats, poultry, eggs, beans, nuts, and seeds, you have to remember that in this model, I'll also be getting protein from those 3 cups of dairy. I'm also going to be getting protein from my grain choices. So it's not that all the grams of protein for the day are coming from that protein section. There's kind of a disconnect there with the nomenclature, but I do think still labeling it as protein is like the best option, because it's not always meat either. So I remember looking at it the first time I ever did this, and I was like, 5.5 ounces, that's it? Like, that's what I'm going to have for dinner. But it's more than that. It's more, there's protein from dairy. And so I personally don't have this much dairy. So I end up with more protein to make up for it. But that's the more nuanced answer. And myplate.gov provides generalized guidance based on dietary guidelines for Americans, which is such an excellent resource for general guidance. So that's where you can find, if you really wanted to dive into like, why are these recommendations there? You could do the heavy reading of the dietary guidelines for Americans, or recognize that it has already been distilled for you into something actionable by nutrition professionals. And that's what you're looking at on this website, is like the user experience, user interface of dietary guidelines for Americans. And then I can download this, I can print it. They have
an app for your phone even.
Yep, there's an app on your phone that you can use. There also used to be, they may have done away with this part of it as just technology has changed. Oh yeah, so if I download it, it gives me like a written tracker for the day that I can use. And so it depends on what you like, right? And if you even want to track yourself, or you just want to do it by plate. So, and it's telling me I should be more active.
Mm-hmm.
Which is always my own personal struggle. But this is a good idea to, if you're somebody who's really just starting out with paying attention to what you're eating and what you're putting in your body. This is an excellent starting place, and can really open you up to like, oh, I don't eat a lot of vegetables. Well, what counts as a vegetable? What do I like? What can I start to incorporate? Right? It doesn't have to be a raw vegetable, right? It can be cooked. It can be canned. And then you get into, well, if I need low sodium, I either need to buy a no salt added or rinse the canned vegetables off. It could be, and you can go into like the recipes section and look for more recipes for like, well, what do I do with these vegetables that I've now purchased?
Mm-hmm.
How do I use them? And that's always a big question as well. Right? Like, what do I do with it? Or I've had some clients who will like join a CSA. So with like a local farmer, and then they get produce every week or however often it is, and it opens them up to new things that they wouldn't normally pick up at the grocery store, and kind of forces them to try it out. And see what it's like. And so then sometimes I get these pictures and it's like, well, I have no idea what this vegetable even is.
Yeah, at the grocery store, there's really some, in the last 10, 20 years, things that I've never seen.
And it's so wonderful to try new things. At least for me. I know that that's not the case for everybody. And sometimes having those safety foods is also important. And again, that's where it becomes very individualized, and my plate keeps it general. That's the whole point, was to make something that is easily accessible and able to be utilized by a wide area of people. Lots of people can use this, and it's applicable to most people. It's not getting into specifics at all beyond just the basic formulas for calories and honestly, it's general macronutrient breakdown. You're just not looking at it as macronutrients. You're looking at it as food groups, which is much more actionable, right? If I went and I told you, like, hey, you need 250 grams of carbohydrates every day.
Mhm.
It's like, okay, but what does that look like?
Yeah.
But if I tell you that you need, 3 cups of dairy, I wish I left it open, whatever it was, 3 cups of dairy and 6 servings of grains, that's a lot more actionable, especially if I give you, oh, there it is, like 6 ounces of grains, an ounce is a slice of bread, or a half cup of rice. Like, cool, I can work with that. And then I know,
Mhm.
like, oh, you know what I should make is rice and beans again. I made that last week. I made it last week and ate rice and beans for like the whole week. It was so good. But then it's like, cool, I mix it together, and so then I just scoop out like a cup and a half of it and go from there. Um, which then what my plate doesn't necessarily address, and what can get really difficult sometimes, are mixed dishes, right? So think a casserole
Mhm.
or a burrito, or like I said, I combine my rice and beans. Like, that can catch people up a little bit, and you can get a little hung up on, like, oh my God, I don't know how much rice is in here versus how many beans are in here, and or like, oh, this is a casserole and I have no idea how much ground beef is in here versus the vegetables versus whatever else is in it. And there's a couple ways to handle it. One would be, if you truly really need to get into the weeds with it, you can look at the whole recipe, how many servings are in the whole recipe, and then how much of that did you take, and do a little bit of math. Or you eyeball it. Or you just say, like, how fast am I eating? Am I stopping when I'm full? And kind of go from there as well. So I guess there's 3 different ways to handle it.
Mm.
Um, and part of it depends on your comfort level. Part of it depends on your particular needs on how you address it, right? So, like, if somebody needs to adjust their insulin based on this, that's a completely different story than
Mm.
somebody who's just trying to bring more awareness to what they're eating and practice healthier lifestyle interventions.
Which
Um,
makes sense. Yeah.
yeah. So, um, what I usually say is, if somebody really feels the need to like log it or keep track, to eyeball it. I'm like, well, did it, especially if they've been measuring out, or not even measuring, but using that plate method. I can be like, well, did it look like it would have taken up a quarter of your plate with the vegetables that were in there? Did it look like a little bit less than a quarter of your plate for the meat that was in there? That kind of thing. And just eyeball it. The good thing with food, right? And we're still very generally speaking, we're not talking about specific disease states, just general healthy eating, is that your body is looking at it as an average over the course of time. So if you're over on one thing one day, but then under on the same thing the next day, and then right in the middle the third day and the fourth day, like, it all comes together and, like, averages out, and you're good to go.
Right.
There's obviously certain situations where that is definitely not the case, but again, like, this is just general healthy eating. Things like carbohydrate management with insulin dependent diabetes, whether it's type 1 or type 2, that is completely different, and it does matter meal to meal, or things like heart failure. It does matter day to day, especially with like fluid and salt intake. But for the most part, beyond that, you're looking at an average over the course of time, which is why when I was doing individual counseling, I never just looked at a 24-hour recall for a variety of reasons, but I was like, I need at least 3 days of what you ate so that I can see on average how things are going, and really get like a full picture. Um, yeah, so, and
You
my
brought
plate,
up something,
go ahead. Yeah.
and a question for you. How important is it for when you eat the speed?
The speed.
Like you brought up
Yeah.
how you eat really fast or eat slower.
Yeah. So I brought it up as part of like, okay, well, if you're not going to log what you're eating or you're not tracking like how much is in that mixed dish, um, just eat slower and stop when you're full. So it takes about 20 minutes from when you've started eating until your brain can even recognize, then like have those satiety cues come back to your brain from your stomach. So I like an interesting activity is to very non-judgmentally time yourself and see how long it takes you to eat a meal. I can eat my full dinner in like 10 minutes, right? Like stretching it to 20 is rough. Um, but it's an excellent practice. What the other piece that you can do is serve yourself what looks like an appropriate serving size, eat it, and then wait that full 20 minutes from when you started before you go for more, right? Otherwise, this is how, like, think about Thanksgiving, where you just keep going and then suddenly you like have to undo your pants because you're so full. Um, it's you can certainly get there and overeat before you even recognize that you are full. Um, so going a little bit slower and taking your time. Part of this too, one of the techniques for slowing down is to, and some people might say like chew 20 times or chew until it feels like mush, like whatever works for you. But digestion starts in your mouth. And so if you slow down by chewing better, one, you're reducing your risk of choking on your food at any age, but two, the other piece of it is you're starting that digestion process, not only by breaking up the food with chewing, but also by there's enzymes that are released in your mouth, in your saliva, that start the process of breaking down, chemically breaking down the food. This is why, like, if you leave like a cracker in your mouth, it will start to dissolve and break down, and the it'll actually end up tasting sweeter
Yeah.
because the carbohydrates are being broken down into the sugar components, by the enzymes in your mouth. So another cool little experiment. Uh, yeah. So when you slow down, you utilize more of your full digestive system by chewing more, and you're going to digest it a little bit better. You're going to be in more of a rest and digest phase if you can sit down and take your time with eating. Um,
And wouldn't you feel fuller sooner because of that 20 minutes? So those first that first half of your meal, excuse me, if you eat slower, um, it starts giving you the fullness factor
well,
quicker, as opposed if you just gobbled something down and then you still feel hungry.
yeah, so you're going to be, it's still going to take like the 20 minutes, but you might either, I mean, depending on how slow you go, either you've just finished your meal at that 20 minutes, or you might still be eating at that 20 minutes and decide that you're full. So it's still going to take the same amount of time, but you might be like still interacting with your food versus having finished it and are just sitting around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's that. I wanted to see if they link this directly to recipes.
Because that's one
No.
habit that I'm working very hard to break is the whole concept of eating slower. Yes, honey. We're going to the gas station. Okay. Okay, thank you. My daughter's taking a trip to the gas station.
Oh, that sounds excellent.
You know, in the military, you get used to eating fast.
Yep.
And so now that we're not there,
Yeah,
I'm
you have to
learning to eat slow.
retrain yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just feels like to me sometimes eating's a waste of time. I'm wasting time that could be doing something constructive.
Well, eating is constructive. You
It's
need
funny,
to eat.
my brother-in-law is one of 12 kids in their family, if you can imagine. And he said growing up that he had to relearn eating habits because it was like grab first and, you know, eat first or somebody else would take it off your plate type things. He is, I can't remember how many brothers, tens, hundreds, no, but, and so when we were out to dinner one time, he said, he had to learn to eat slower and pace himself and not think that he had to eat fast or he wouldn't get any, grab fast,
Yeah,
which was
absolutely.
quite funny.
Yeah, and it's essentially like anybody who's been in that kind of resource scarce environment where like, oh, if I don't take it and eat it now, it's not going to be there later. It
Mhm.
changes how you interact with the food. And if you're in essentially like a safe space of the food's not going to disappear on you, it takes conscious retraining to get to a point where you are not overeating out of the fear that you don't know when you're going to get more.
Yeah.
Or that in the case of multiple siblings, it's going to disappear even off of your plate. You never know.
I don't know how much he was teasing, but still, the point was that he had to. Well,
Oh,
my mom, coming from a family, she was the oldest girl of a family of 10.
I'm
And
sure it was like that. That's
so, but she had to learn how to cook for two when they were first married because
yeah,
she always cooked for, you know,
10.
10 people, you know. Um, and so, it's just those with us, we had to Ron loves corn on the cob, and this time of year, we have but his dietitian had told him that corn is not a vegetable, it's a starch. And then with butter and salt, so instead of buying 6 ears of corn and eating them, we buy 2 ears of corn. We cut
Yeah.
them in half so that he gets 3 pieces to my one. But I mean, things like that we just had to make changes of that.
Yeah. And there's always a way to work it in, almost always. It's usually about how much, right? Like with the corn, and you can certainly still have it. And corn is a great source of fiber and magnesium, but yeah, it changes your blood sugar just like bread would. That's how your body sees it.
Yes. Yes.
So
We
it's
can
yeah.
still have it, but we
Oh
limit.
yeah,
We limit.
exactly. It's that moderation
Mhm.
um, that is somehow so very difficult.
The one nice thing about the My Plates, especially for kids, because, so many of us forget kids only have little tiny tummies.
Yep.
And so we give them a big plate and we fill the big plate and then we get
Yeah.
frustrated because they don't eat it. The My Plate is a little plate, little dividers, which works great for kids who don't like their food touching.
And
I bought it just for that reason.
so you can get I don't know if they sell it on their website. They really should. But you can get um, plates that are designed with this model that are printed with the information. Like I have some from my local grocery store, did them. So it's got like the local grocery store logo on it, but then it's divided up and it says what each section is for and has like little pictures in it. It's definitely geared towards kids to help them learn. But even on, yeah, we really focus on adult nutrition on this show. But like I was saying, they've got um, sections on here for different life stages. So for what did I just pull up? Preschoolers, right? You can do a My Plate plan for preschoolers. So, and this is not saying that like, oh, my kid needs a diet, right? It's just saying I want to learn more about what my kid needs and what would be considered um, healthy for that kid. So what did I do? I just made somebody up. I made up a 3-year-old male that's active, right? So this kid doesn't just sit around, gets out, moves around. They need 1,400 calories a day. And so it's like, all right, well, what does that look like for a kid? And it's going to be a cup and a half of fruit, cup and a half of veggies, 4 ounces of protein, 2.5 cups of dairy, 5 ounces of grain, and that would help to meet their needs. And so they can yeah, just like you said, Mary, it's smaller amounts of the plate. And this would be a cool thing if you were like looking to teach your child more about healthy eating. You can talk through like which types of food in each category do you enjoy. Um, and that's a much healthier way to approach it than approaching it as what are your limitations, right?
Yeah.
And that way you're not developing this fear around food and eating. You're developing this relationship with the food in terms of like, okay, this is what my body needs to grow. And these are the foods I like from this group. Or, hey, this is a new food. Which group do you think that it fits into? And if it's like, I don't know, whatever it might be. Say you found like shark steaks in the grocery store and you're like, where would shark fit? And it's like, well, it's protein. I don't know. I picked something that was like really
Well,
like
what
out
we
there.
did is they have the My Plates are at Walmart, and so I got the
Okay.
plate, the bowl, the cup for each of the kids. And so I let them. We take it to the store. Every time we go grocery shopping, they take it with. So they get to each pick out a meal that we're going to eat for the week. And so they had to figure out everything to make for that meal that fits in that plate.
That's great. Yeah.
And if it didn't fit in that plate, they couldn't get it. So it saved me money on groceries.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. And then it also brings up conversations with like kid-friendly mixed dishes. It's like, well, where does pizza fit? And so then you talk about like the different parts of the pizza. And it's like, well, the crust is a grain, and you're not really using enough sauce to count it as a vegetable. And the cheese is technically protein, but like, how much are you really using? So then, what else do we need to do to fill up your plate so that you've got everything your body needs to be healthy? Um, and looking at it that way. So there are definitely healthy ways to use this and then use it to interact with like children to build a healthy relationship with food. Um, what I also really like that they've included on the My Plate plan for children is that, because remember in this example I did like a 3-year-old male,
Mhm.
it has like a choking hazard information section with a link to read more about choking hazards in children, um, because that is a really important issue that is
Does it
easily avoidable if things are cut small enough.
does it still, I know when it first came out, My Plate, that used to actually show you how to cut up things like hot dogs.
I think it's still FNS, a Food and Nutrition Services resource. And I think I know what one you're talking about, where it shows you like how small to make it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this one uses grapes, but it shows you like slice smaller pieces to no larger than a half inch and like shows you a ruler and what it looks like.
Hot dogs are such a choking
Or
hazard.
yeah, cut tube-shaped foods into smaller pieces, and it shows how to like cut them into short strips instead of cutting them into round pieces. Which was completely different from me for me because I remember getting my hot dogs cut up into circles, right? You just go down the line like you're cutting up
Sure.
a cucumber. Um, and so what this is it looks like they took the hot dog and cut it into like strips, right? Like how I would cut a
Yeah.
carrot into carrot sticks, but they're hot dog sticks.
Yeah, we always made octopuses.
Yeah, that works.
Yes. Yes.
So they had the handle and the legs were what they ate so they could dip it into the ketchup.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But and
Um,
that's the big thing what we need to start really working on with kids is, a lot of parents, they do all the meal planning. They do all the and they're so restrictive on what they can and can't eat for kids, but they don't teach them and incorporate them into it. So they don't know how to eat healthy.
it's I don't know if it's always optional, and I think it probably varies state by state with the education system. But it can be incorporated into like health class, right? Which even at young ages, they are incorporating some sort of like health curriculum. So I know in our school district, it's they have units where they've talked about like teeth brushing, and they do have ones where they do talk about healthy eating and my plate. So I think it depends on where you are. So if this is something that you want to see in your school system, it would be something to bring um, to your school board. Depending on how your school food service system is run, they usually need to do wellness activities. Um, and so going in and doing education around healthy eating and introducing kids to new foods, doing taste testing, things like that, um, might be part of what they already need to be working on throughout the school. It really depends. I've seen it vary state by state and also vary school district by district, in terms of how much they do. Um, and of course, where I did my internship for school food service was run by a dietitian. So there, I feel like there's might have been more wellness activities, but then like I oversee, or not oversee, but I do some site reviews for a Head Start program in Vermont, and they do a lot with taste testing and introducing the children to new and different foods. Um, so it depends where you are, but there's such an opportunity for it, and this is something that is honestly like beyond just bringing it into the classroom. In terms of lesson planning, it's pretty low lift because there's so much available through the child and adult care food program, through the National School Lunch Program, um, and through like the USDA Food and Nutrition Services. There's a lot of lessons already made and handouts already made that you would just need to take into the school.
For parents whose kids struggle with fruit, especially like
Hmm.
sensory kids, dragon fruit is a very good fruit for them to try.
Now, what's different about the texture of that that's helpful?
It's not so much a texture, it's the flavor. It's very
Okay.
bland. And so it's similar texture as a kiwi.
Okay.
So but it's a very I don't care for it, but my daughter loves it because it's a blander fruit and it tastes. No matter what dragon fruit you get, it's very similar in taste.
Oh, like ripeness doesn't really change it. Is that
No,
okay?
because like apples, you can buy different the same Honeycrisp apple, but each apple may taste different based on the environment it's in, or just apple to apple. And that's where a lot of kids don't eat a lot of fruits. And that's why they like crap, because no matter what, that pizza or that bag of chips is going to always taste the same. And so, like, dragon fruit is a very good starter fruit because it's always going to be the same consistency and flavor.
That's really good to know because I know that that can be really hard. Yeah, like I've had, um, I don't know, cucumbers are my thing where it's like sometimes they're great, sometimes they're really bitter, and especially with like homegrown cucumbers, you're never really sure what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
I think that has to do with like the amount of watering while they're growing, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've done like agriculture-based programming.
It's a lot to do with the water, how much
Yeah,
water, but it's also this type of soil.
yeah. There's lots of different factors that go into it that don't go into making like a chip.
That's it. But a
Yeah.
lot of times it's just predictability, and they know that's going to taste the same. It's also a reason why a lot of kids like canned fruits over fresh fruits.
Yeah, which if you're gonna get canned in juice. We do the fruit cups in juice as well, so that they can open their own over the sink um, and eat them, because that can always get messy. But it's just another option. But yeah, that is a little bit more standardized in terms of the flavor and texture that you're going to be getting out of a canned fruit. And it still counts as fruit. I feel like canned food gets this bad rap, but if that's what you've got, like get it. Like go with the canned item. Go with the canned fruit. I'm a huge fan of canned beans. I don't have the bandwidth for doing like dried beans and soaking them overnight and getting all into it like that. We do canned beans and I rinse them off. Um, Same with um, canned vegetables. There's actually times, and this is like a nuanced answer, but there are times where I actually recommend canned fruits and vegetables over fresh or frozen. And this typically is when somebody has to be on some kind of low fiber diet, because they are slightly lower in fiber, just because they've gone through the processing of being canned. So it's not exactly the same as having something that is fresh or frozen, but it's better than nothing, right? In terms of meeting yourself where you are and doing the best that you can, it's better than you. I would never want to see somebody forgo having a vegetable because all they could get was a canned vegetable. It still counts. It's still giving you like vitamins and minerals and things like that. And it looks like we have somebody in the chat that said, hey, so I'm just wondering if you've got like nutrition questions or something that you wanted to add to the conversation.
So I did have a quick question for you because it's been on the news lately about arsenic in rice.
Yes, it's not enough to kill you. You're never going to get to the point where you've had enough that it's going to impact you. That's all. It's a naturally
Just
occurring
like
substance.
apples, remember there was this big thing about apples and apple seeds. I mean, how often do you eat the apple seeds anyways? But,
Yeah.
sometimes things are blown out of proportion.
Yep. Yeah, that's what happens. It makes good headlines.
Yeah. Trust that
I used to
news.
save the apple seeds just to screw with my husband. So I used to watch those shows like How to Kill Your Husband.
Oh my
And he asked
God.
me just to mess with him because he moved me to the middle of nowhere. I had to entertain myself. And so he asked me what I was doing with the apple seeds because I didn't want him to throw them away. And I go, because you never know what arsenic does to you. And if I feed them to you little by little, your body naturally has it. So eventually it'll kill you, but not enough to where, it'll pull up on a test.
Yeah. And if somebody's really worried about the arsenic in rice, rinsing your rice reduces the amount of arsenic. And apparently you can also rinse it after you've cooked it to remove even more.
I do that naturally just to remove the starch.
Yeah. So, and I saw we have somebody that joined as a caller too. Did you have a nutrition question or a food question?
Am I?
Yes.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Hello. How are you?
Good. Did you have a food related question?
I'm usually eating pork fat, salted, so I have no problem with the food.
Okay. Great. Well, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
The topic is nutrition.
Yes, you are correct.
Okay.
Just healthy eating and knowing what's best to eat. When you talked about the plate, the size of the plate too, I've been since Weight Watchers one time mentioned about using a lunch plate, using the smaller plate instead of the large dinner plate, and it just helps restrict your portions. It's just a mindset.
So with my plate, that's based on a 9-inch plate, right? And so your dinner plates that you like, your not paper plates, but like regular dinnerware, are usually larger than 9 inches.
Yes.
And then your salad plates are typically smaller than 9 inches. So you're kind of at this impasse of like, what is the right size to use? And what we sometimes do is we have paper plates in our house, and I look for like a 9-inch size or a 10-inch size paper plate. Because if you do the 10-inch size, you're just using the inner circle of the plate, and you're at a 9-inch plate size. So I don't know, some people might argue that, well, now you're using disposable dinnerware and you're filling landfills. And I'm like, pick your poison. I cannot make everybody happy.
No, you cannot.
Yeah, but like, I think my dinner plates are 11 or 12 inches, and like, so, and my salad plates are definitely this picture I looked up. That's closer. That's definitely closer if your salad plate is 8. Yeah. So,
Ladies.
okay. Yeah, and so it is an option to know how large your plate is if you select like a disposable plate, right? A paper plate, or knowing what it is. So like the ones that are modeled after my plate, like we were talking about earlier with the pictures on it and the different portions, it's usually the right size. Or like the kid one is going to be smaller. Like Mary was saying, if you give a kid even a 9-inch plate and fill it up, it's going to be too much food. They need either smaller portions on the plate or just do a smaller plate and fill it up, so that it still looks full, because for whatever reason, we visually need to fill whatever food vessel we're using. So, which can be difficult when you're trying to work on what is an appropriate portion size, and you have this internal struggle of like, okay, well, I recognize that's an appropriate portion size, but then Now my plate doesn't look full and I feel deprived because
Right.
my plate's not full. And it's like, you're not depriving yourself. There's a lot of mental gymnastics that goes into adjusting how you look at food and how you interact with it. And I find the plate method to be helpful because it's something that we look at regularly. Theoretically, every time we eat, there's some sort of plate or bowl involved. Not always the case, but a lot of times. And so it provides that constant reminder of like, okay, well, how is this supposed to be set up? How should I be utilizing what's in front of me to make the best health choices? There was something else I was going to say about that, but I don't remember what it was now.
When people complain about me, here you go, Mom. Thank you, honey pie. Put it upstairs, please. Using paper plates over real plates. I always tell them I'm using my part to conserve water.
I don't know. There's always going to be something. You're never going to get it all right.
You're never gonna make everybody happy.
No, doing my best, man. Like that's where I'm at. Sometimes I just don't have time to do dishes, and so that reduces the amount of dishes that I have to do. And I recognize plates go in the dishwasher, but it's still just one less step and one less thing I have to think about. So
if you have a
sometimes I do
dishwasher.
that. Yes, also if you have a dishwasher, because not everybody does.
I don't yet.
Oh my God. I fill that thing and put everything in it I possibly can.
That's my
So,
goal. And see, like we have to have a built-in one because my husband got me the nice fancy sink with the sprayer on it.
yeah.
And he only did it to save himself.
Oh,
Because I'm one of those that has made it an art form to take Scotch tape and put it around the old sprayer. So when you turn the water on,
it sprays you.
Yeah.
Our sprayer has a design flaw. I think it's just worn out, but you have to physically pull the lever, when you squeeze it to make the water come out and change it from the tap to the sprayer, but it doesn't shut off. And when after one of my parties, I had everyone was help cleaning up and somebody had used the sprayer and just turned the water off. So the next person turned the water on, got a face full of water. It just sprayed out. And of course, they didn't know to turn it off. So it was, all over the kitchen. There was all this commotion in the kitchen. And it's like, oh my goodness.
Oh
Forgot
no.
to tell you not to use that. But it was funny. It was very wet, but it was funny.
If you spray the handle where that button is with bathroom cleaner for hard water.
Yeah, it sounds
It'll
like there's
fix
hard
it.
water buildup.
Yeah, it probably is something. It's old, it's
I
I don't
soak
know how
mine
old
at
your
least
house
once a
is, but
month in toilet cleaner because I have such hard water.
Yeah.
We don't have terribly hard water, but I'm sure it has just built up over the centuries, however old it is. But I will try that. So.
Well, all right. Well, we are at 1:00. Thank you so much. Hopefully this clears up my plate and what it is and how to use it.
Well, just seeing that site, that was great. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Super, super useful website.
Wonderful. Well, Beth, if you just want to talk about your websites and give
yeah.
that information and the way out, that would be wonderful.
Absolutely. I don't know. I totally blanked on that. So you can follow along. I'm definitely not as active online as I used to be, but Instagram is evolve _DN as in diabetes. And then my website is evolvedn.com. A little bit of brand standardization there, they're the same. And you can learn more about me. I have a different meal planning app, not the MyPlate one, with meal planning and recommendations, and it gets a lot more tailored than what MyPlate offers. So something to check out if that's something that you're into as well.
Wonderful.
What
Well,
about your
thank you,
planner
thank you.
book?
I need to do some significant updates to that because like the website information is wrong in there, my name is wrong in there now, and so I'm not pushing that until I make some crazy edits to it and re-put it out. And I think I'm going to re-put it out as a PDF
I'd do it as both.
or both. Yeah.
When you're ready to do it, let me know and I'll help you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thanks, gals. And
Thank
I'm glad
you.
we had a visitor to the show too. So, and thank you to Johnny Kifford. Um, well, everyone, have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon, and we will look forward to next Wednesday to get more information from Beth that we can just make ourselves healthier and appreciate you. So, with that, I'll say goodbye for today, and we'll catch up on the next show.
Have a good day. Have a
Bye.
good night. We'll see you guys next week.
Okay, bye bye.